our beautiful telethon families. So our next couple of videos that are coming up in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to actually be talking about behavior and also about dealing with big feelings, when kids have big feelings, and how we can help them and support them with that. Before we do that, I really wanted to focus on the idea of self-care, because as we know, our kids are thriving when we are thriving. When we are looking after ourselves, we are in a much better place to be able to be there and be present with our children. But that's not always easy, but I think it's a really important first step before we move into the behavior area, which is probably one of the most common things that parents talk to us about at telethon. So when I say self-care, I'm not just talking about, pouring yourself a nice vino and having a bubble bath or, that sort of thing. And that's important too. And that's very useful in kind of filling our cup and giving us, new energy or a bit of a break so that we can come back and kind of be the parents that we want to be. But I'm talking more about self-compassion. So let's have a think about what that might mean. When we are parents, we throw our all into our children. We love them so deeply and so completely, and we just want to protect them and make them feel happy and loved and for them to have a really beautiful life. We want to be a good mum and a good dad and just a good parent. So working with parents over many years, I can 100% tell you without any doubt that there is not one parent that I have ever met that at some stage didn't think they were a good parent. I've had parents say quite outright, I'm not a good parent. I don't think I'm doing a good job. I'm not a good mum. I'm not a good dad. I don't know what I'm doing. My kid is so unlucky to have me as a parent. These are all things that I've heard parents say. And they're even things that I have said to myself. I'm not a good mum. I'm not doing a good job. And those sorts of thoughts and those sorts of days when we are having those thoughts are really, really tough. There are times when our children bring us lots of joy, so much joy, and it's really rewarding being a parent, and it's wonderful, and it's all that, absolutely. But sometimes, some days, it will feel like the struggles just outweigh the joys. And this is when we want to practice some self-compassion. We want to practice being kind to ourselves and accepting that we are having those days. And just because we have those days, it doesn't make us a bad parent. These feelings can be particularly difficult when our kids are having big feelings. So when they're melting down, or they're sad, or they're crying, sobbing, throwing, hitting, tantruming, these really big feelings don't feel good for them, and they don't feel good for us. And these are the days that we can be particularly hard on ourselves about how good we are as a parent. So self-compassion can look like just reminding yourself that those behaviors are normal. They're typical behaviors. Our children are meant to get upset sometimes. They're meant to challenge us. They're meant to not listen. That's actually their job as a child. That's how they develop, that's how they grow, and that's how we often grow as parents as well. So one way of being self-compassionate is just to kind of tell ourselves, this is normal, this is how children behave, and I'm still doing a good job. The other things that we can do around self-compassion is really just to remind ourselves that parenting is hard. There's so many things that you have to do as a parent. You have to work out what your kids need, you have to play with them, you have to organise play dates, get them to sleep, cook nutritious meals, be with your partner, have a life of your own, go to work, clean the house. I mean, it sometimes feels never ending. So parenting is really hard. And then you have the mental strain of looking after a child and all the emotional stuff that goes with that, and how much it means to you, how deeply you feel about it, and often more than one child. So you're growing a little human, and that's a really big thing to undertake. And it's hard. And parenting is hard. And some days we just have to be really kind to ourselves and accept that. And accept that parenting is hard, and you're allowed to not always love it. And you're allowed to feel like it's hard, and that does not make you a bad parent. The other area of self-compassion is that we are often very critical of ourselves. So when our kids are having a hard time, or maybe we've done something that we regret doing, maybe we woke up and said this is going to be a great day and it didn't go to plan, that's when we become really critical of ourselves. And we start this, I'm not a good parent, I'm not doing a good job. Having a bad day or having a bad moment or not handling something the way that you wanted to does not mean that you are a bad parent. We are going to make mistakes as parents. We are going to do things that we later on think that wasn't the best way to handle it. And one thing you can do that will help you and your children is to really just be kind to yourself, allow yourself to make those mistakes, and to remember that you don't have to have it all figured out, that you don't have to be a perfect parent who can fix everything and who's always happy and always calm and in control. Your kids do not need a perfect parent. You are the perfect parent for them because of how much you love them and how much you want to be with them, how well you know them. There is no pressure to be more than just what your child needs. And on those days when you feel like you're not doing a good job, that's okay. And you have to give yourself permission to have those days. And those days might just mean that you show up and you do the best you can, and you remember that tomorrow will be maybe a little easier and a little different, and that you and your child are growing and learning every day. And there's going to be good days and there's going to be difficult days. On both of those days, you are still a good parent.